Hey everybody, Papa Wiggs back here with Wiggs. We're doing another head-to-head here. This time we're going to talk about Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery of the Lions. Wow, this is a good one. I'm excited about this one. Um, I think that this is going to be an interesting duel in the backfield this year. Um, between these two guys uh, because I really do think that Gibbs um, is going to probably be more active in the offense this year. I think is he dealing with an injury? Um,
Hamstring.
yeah, he was. I think he's returned now or and stuff. So, and I don't think they're saying it was going to threaten, what he does or threaten him for week one. So, here's my take on this one. I think last year Wiggs and I were just talking about this, and I think last year Detroit had a definite plan with Gibbs to slowly get him acclimated to the offense. Obviously, they paid all that money to David Montgomery, so I think they wanted to get him acclimated with them and see what they truly had. And as the season went along, they realized that they really had something here. I think it was probably one of the best 1-2 punches in the league last year. I mean, Gibbs was actually more involved in the passing game than Montgomery. He had 52 receptions for the 316 yards and one receiving touchdown, and then he had the 10 rushing touchdowns. He was averaging over 5 yards a carry. Uh, last year, which was really good. Montgomery, Montgomery was averaging 4.6, a little over 4.6 yards um, a carry. He only had 16 receptions for his 117 yards, so he wasn't as involved in the passing game as he was, um, with the Bears in previous years. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they drafted Gibbs, right, Wiggs? I mean, would you agree? But boy, Montgomery, he went off for over 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns, which was just crazy. I think a lot of people were surprised how Detroit used him. I think here's my take on this. I think Detroit is going to do the 1-2 punch again this year, but I think it might, we might see a little bit more involvement from Gibbs in the rushing game. And I think slowly you're going to, as the year goes on, I think you're going to see a transition of kind of handing over the reins, so to speak, where I think Gibbs is going to be more active in the offense. I think they're going to do that for a couple of reasons. One, um, the, you know, Montgomery's had a history of missing a few games a year. 1, 2, 3 games a year. I think by lightening his load a little bit and turning some of that over to Gibbs, it's gonna make Montgomery more effective, and it's actually gonna you know reduce the amount of wear and tear that he has. I mean, it's not that Montgomery's extremely old; he's only 27, right? But I think that if the Lions play it right and they do that, they're going to keep both their running backs fresh throughout the year, especially if they want to make a deep playoff run. I don't see, and I think part of what they did last year with not using Montgomery as much in the passing game was just for that fact to keep Montgomery fresher since they had Gibbs. So um, I'll be honest with you, it wouldn't surprise me if both of these guys go over 1,000 yards this year rushing. It really wouldn't. I mean, I think that there's a really legitimate. I mean, because last year, let's see, last year, Montgomery played 14 games. I think Gibbs missed a couple games last year as well. He missed. Well, he missed one game for sure. But the Lions, I think, were in the playoffs as
No,
well.
he played.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Well,
He missed weeks 5 and 6.
yeah, so he missed 2 games last year. Had he not missed those 2 games, Gibbs
He
would
was
have
probably over 1,000.
definitely probably would have been over 1,000 yards rushing. So it would not surprise me one bit if both these guys get over 1,000 yards rushing. I'm going to give the edge to Gibbs here though from a fantasy standpoint, in the sense that even though Montgomery had 3 more, well actually Montgomery had 2 more touchdowns than Gibbs last year. Gibbs had a total of 11, and Montgomery had a total of 13. I think Gibbs is actually going to be a little bit more involved this year, and um, overall, it wouldn't surprise me if we see Gibbs around the 500-yard receiving yards this year. Along with him, I definitely think he could break 1,000 yards, maybe around 1150. I definitely see him around the 12 combined 12 touchdowns, if not a little bit more. I think that Montgomery is definitely. I think he's going to be less involved, even lesser involved in the passing game this year. So I'd be surprised if he's over 100 yards. I think they're gonna use him more so in the rushing game to lighten the load. I think that he can still go over 1,000 yards. I think he'll probably be right around what he was last year, just breaking that 1,000 yard threshold. And it wouldn't surprise me if Montgomery has around 12 to 13 touchdowns again, because I could see them, using both of them actually in the red zone, and because they're both such um, big red zone targets, in the running game. So I think that, and their offense is explosive. I mean, boy, they got an explosive offense. I think they're going to put up a lot of points this year. So that's why I think both of these guys have a legitimate shot of being around that 12 touchdown mark and breaking 1,000 yards. I mean, Wiggs, what do you think?
Um, I don't know if I see both of them breaking 1,000 yards this year. I actually have a feeling that Gibbs might get like a little bit more of the workload this year. I'm thinking he might be at more of a 60% out of the field type of guy compared to Montgomery being maybe like a 40%. For some weird reason, I just have this feeling that they're kind of going to use Montgomery more of like a change of pace or a red zone type back this year. Because to me, like you look at Gibbs and he kind of gives me like a Christian McCaffrey type vibe, where he's explosive running the ball, but he's also really good at receiving it. Now, I would like to see more yards behind 52 receptions from him last year. I thought that was a little low for 52 receptions, but it's still a good look because I feel like that'll continue throughout this year and years to come. Um, but for me, he kind of gives me that CMC type vibe. He just needs to not miss any games, and he didn't miss any last year. I think he's the one over 1,000 yards, and I don't think Montgomery is because obviously Montgomery took advantage of him not being able to play in those 2 games, and I don't think Montgomery hits 1,000 yards if he did miss those 2 games.
You could be right. I just think that the Lions are still going to use him quite a bit because they're paying Montgomery buku money.
I got a feeling they might even trade him.
When they signed him, they paid him quite a bit of money. I think he's still going to be a big part of their offense. I don't know. They could trade him if somebody gave him a great offer. I don't see them trading him because I think he definitely adds to their offense and makes their offense more explosive. I mean, I could see them after this year, though, kind of handing the reins over to Gibbs and maybe looking at exploring a trade of Montgomery. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out either way. I still think both of these guys are legitimate fantasy. I mean, obviously, both of them are, big fantasy options. They're both. I mean, at minimum, uh, you know, um, like we talked in our other videos, low end. It's hard to say, but they're both definitely RB2 running backs for sure. You know what I mean? With Gibbs probably being maybe a low end number one, and Montgomery more so just a high end number two. I don't think Montgomery probably is going to break that, low end number one threshold. So that's just my thoughts.
I think his lack of receiving is kind of the reason why he won't be in that RB1 talk at all this year.
Right. So, but I still think he's going to have a productive year. I really do. And you know, with as explosive as their offenses, it just isn't going to surprise me if both these guys break 1,000 yards. So, um, that's just my 2 cents. We'll see. We'll see what happens. With this, I do think. The other thing is Montgomery's going to want to take advantage of this year as well. If he wants to be able to, remain with them, or for some reason, extend his career, because for some reason, well, as everybody knows, the big thing right now in the NFL is that they're putting less value on these guys as they get older. I mean, there's guys out there like Dalvin Cook Dalvin's I think only 28, and he's still not even signed with the team. And they're saying that he may or may not even sign with the team. You got other guys out there as well in the same position, so it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. So I think David Montgomery's probably going to be fighting every single possession to show his value this year. So again, I think it'll be a good duel for Detroit, and I think both of them are worthy of a RB2 spot on your team, um, and you just got to keep an eye on it to see um, how it shakes out if for some reason there's a little shift in the balance. Anything else you want to add, Wiggs?
No, I think we got it covered.
All right. Well, I think we covered that one. Hey, again, we're check us out on Fantasy Fools PPR on YouTube. We're also on Snap, X, TikTok, Instagram. Like, share, subscribe. We hope you guys are finding these videos beneficial. Again, it's just two guys' opinion. We understand you may not agree with everything, and that's fine. We don't have to agree. So hopefully you find benefit out of it, and you keep watching and enjoying our content. So with that, we'll see you next time.